Here we go. For those of you just joining us live, hello. The Senate has taken its final vote on House Bill 1163. We're going to wait for the vote to conclude, and then we will make some comments here real quick. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. You guys got good audio there? Hear us? Okay. Well, hello, everyone. Let me get tuned in out here. Welcome to WGL Live. We just listened to the Washington State Senate pass House Bill 1163. So let us go back over that. That is the permit to purchase law. That is a law that will require you to go get a permission slip, a hall pass, if you would, before you can actually purchase a firearm. It will have mandatory training, mandatory live fire training. I'm not opposed to training. I think there's no such thing as being overtrained, but to require training in order to exercise a constitutional right obviously creates all sorts of issues. If you're a CPL holder, congratulations. That doesn't do you any good. It doesn't alleviate any of the other requirements. And if you want to become a CPL holder, then you will also need to go through the same live fire training. Now, I was kind of waiting to hit the go live button because I wanted to kind of listen to the debate and to see how things went. And so the bill was introduced by Senator Marco Elias. If you all know Marco Elias, we could go on for a long time about Marco Elias. From that point forward, the Democrats really never made any other comments. Jeff Hawley out of the 6th District, Mark Schessler out of the 9th District, both made comments. With all due respect to both of those senators, it was the same old, same old. I grew up a hunter. This is going to affect the elk hunters and all of that stuff. And I get that perspective, but you need to understand that the folks in Olympia don't even care about people just defending their own lives. They sure in the hell don't care about hunting of any sort. Nikki Torres from the 15th legislative district was the first one to really get up and kind of knock it pretty good. She was short. She was sweet. She was really good about it. Senator Phil Fortunato did an amazingly good job. Senator Fortunato, who's a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, but can be a little long-winded sometimes, was very succinct and to the point. And he basically says that, and I was sitting in the room when he did this, when he asked Attorney General Nick Brown whether or not this constituted an impairment. Attorney General Brown said, no, this is not an impairment. This is a requirement. And Senator Fortunato very wisely pointed out that, anything that's required in order to do something is, in fact, an impairment, which simple English says it was. Senator Keith Wagner, who's always really good on these issues, real battle tested warrior for your Second Amendment rights, got up and spoke. He did an excellent job. Senator Mazzal out of the 10th legislative district got up did an excellent job. So even though I thought we got off to a slow start, the comments down the second half were actually quite good. Wouldn't have mattered at all. And then the Democrats ended it with Senator Manka Dhingra, which again we could go on about her for a long time. Final vote was 29-19, passes basically along party lines. Okay, so now House Bill 1163 has passed out of the House. It was also passed out of the Senate. Does it go to the governor's desk? No, it actually needs to go back over to the House. Some of you, but not many of you, may have seen the video that we did yesterday that talks about that there has been a change in the enactment date, okay? So the House is going to have to accept the amendment that came out of the Senate Ways and Means Committee. The Ways and Means Committee is the committee that's trying to figure out how they are going to fund this, which I will tell you right now, Washington State, they have no freaking clue how they're going to fund this. None whatsoever. The State Patrol was basically completely left out of this entire process, okay? And yet they will be the ones that are completely tasked with implementing all of this. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. And we saw the same thing occur in Oregon with ballot measure 114. Came up with a licensing regime. It was set to start almost immediately, and nobody in Oregon had any clue where they were even going to begin to set things up. So this will have to go back over to the House. The change is that this bill was supposed to go into effect November 1st of 2026. So if you had anyone who wanted to dip their toes into the Second Amendment waters and buy a firearm now without having to have a permit to purchase, you were going to have between now and November 1st of next year. However, the Ways and Means Committee out of the Senate amended it so that it would be May 1st of 2027. So a little more than 2 years out from now, giving you more time for those who want to dip their toes in the Second Amendment waters, giving you more time to put your house on the market and to find that next place you're going to live, because this is your tipping point, okay? This is going to go back to the House. It is going to be, they're going to accept the amendment. There's no reason for them not to. This is really just pushing it back due to funding. And then it's going to go to Governor Ferguson's desk. And while Governor Ferguson has certainly tried to play a mild, moderate role when it comes to some of the ridiculous taxation that the legislature was coming up with, we know as Attorney General, there was never a Second Amendment restriction, a piece of civilian disarmament legislation that he didn't absolutely adore. So he, in absolute certainty, will be signing this bill and will do so gleefully. What does it mean for you right now? It doesn't change anything for you right now. So even if it was signed by Governor Ferguson tomorrow, you're still going to wake up the next day, still living under the purview of all of our other terrible gun laws here in this state. But this bill will not take effect until a little more than 2 years from now, if it takes effect at all. I know many of you down here in the comment section may be talking about, are there going to be challenges to this? I actually think that this is the next real battlefront. And I'll tell you why I think it is because if you take a look at what they've done in Colorado, Colorado is going to require these licenses for certain types of firearms. And what you're and namely, it was what we would define in this state as assault weapons. And so what you're going to see is that if states are concerned that assault weapon bans, high capacity magazine bans can be flipped by the United States Supreme Court, you will see a flurry of this activity if Snope v. Brown and the Ocean State case gets taken. Then what you're going to likely see is a lot of these states that are freaking out about that because they have these bans that are going to also pass licensing regimes that are going to say, hey, listen, you need to have these types of licenses for these types of guns and these types of licenses for these types of guns. And then they'll create just absolute impenetrable barriers for you to obtain those licenses. So in the event that they do have to make available for sale those types of firearms in states that had previously banned them, they will have a web of licensing standing between you and the purchase of that makes it virtually impossible. So that's, maybe I'm wrong, but this is the way I think they constantly, I mean, take a look at this strategy here. And it was actually Senator Wagner that brought this up. You pass all these gun laws because you think you're going to save lives, or you sell it on that. None of them are going to do that, right? Because none of them go actually after the identifiable demographic group that creates our gun violence problem, not only in Washington State, but nationwide. And so each year you pass these laws, but the numbers don't get better. They actually go in the wrong direction. It's like, well, we need more gun laws. Where we need more gun laws. Where we need more gun laws. And eventually one day, the only gun law they got left is just a complete and utter ban. And that's exactly where they are trying to move people. So at the end of the day, Washington, this is where we sit. House Bill 1163 is going to go back to the House. They got a few days left in session. They'll be able to crank this thing through, and it will end up in the governor's desk. It will end up on the governor's desk for signature, and they will have big old fanfare, and you know who will be there. Liz Berry and all them will be there. And once again, we will see absolutely no change in numbers whatsoever, because once again, ultimately what this law does is it's going to require you to go through a background check to go through a background check. That's literally what it does. When you listen to the Democrats that talk about it, like, oh, this is going to guarantee that the right people are getting the firearms and stuff like that. Yet we already have a background check that's required to do that. Okay. So if you were a first-time gun buyer and you wanted to get your first-time gun and get concealed carry, you are actually going to go through a background check so that you could go through a background check so that you could go through a background check. And they will be the identical background check each and every time. So that's where we are, Washington State. Now, listen, I'm going to go down here. I didn't intend this to be like a super long live session. I see Jason, Colorado, Senate Bill 3. Yeah, that's a big deal. For all of my folks out there in Colorado, love all of you. Thank you for geeking out on the channel. A bit of warning to you, though. I know a lot of you are completely crapping your pants right now and thinking that your state has passed absolutely the worst gun law in the history of America. And to watch the panic on social media has been, again, I'm not chuckling in your misery, but I'm chuckling a little because, yes, it's a terrible, terrible piece of legislation. Terrible piece of legislation. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about with Senate Bill 3 out of Colorado, you can go to the channel and geek out on videos there. But to suggest that you have now been subjected to the worst gun law in America is a bit of an overstatement. As a matter of fact, what you are really doing is playing a game of catch up with a lot of other states that have already been sticking it to their gun owners for decades. Okay, so you go back and you take a look at California, New York, New Jersey, Maryland. They have a long history of doing this. Illinois does. Illinois also has a very recent history of just going completely crazy on their gun owners. New Mexico is a state that has suddenly gone completely berserk. And of course, Washington State, my home state, and Oregon have been playing major games of catch up as well. So welcome to the club. That's what I got to say to you out there in Colorado. I got friends out here from Illinois. Illinois, I love the people out there, especially once you get outside of Cook County and all that, and start getting out in the center and the south part of the state. It's actually fantastic. The Kirk family actually originally hails from Illinois, believe it or not. But your state government is absolutely the worst. And I know there hasn't been a lot of movement on gun control legislation there in Illinois so far. But, you know, Illinois, they always kind of do things at the last minute and they make it happen really, really fast. So I know there's some bills that are kicking around, but it's really hard to do any predictive work on Illinois because they will do things like take a piece of legislation that deals with what color fire hydrants are supposed to be or something like that, and then just strike all of it and be like, no, it's a ban on all semi-automatic handguns, and here it is, and boom, 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 and next thing you know, like 3 days later, you know, Governor Burgermeister is sitting there signing the thing. So we're going to carefully watch Illinois because, I mean, what would be a legislative session in Illinois without the gun owners just getting absolutely crapped on? Okay, so that's a normal year in Illinois. New Mexico, I saw some folks from New Mexico. Yeah, you got it rough. Now, here's the thing. I want you to understand. I know that when in New Mexico, you had a firebombing of a GOP office. And that got a lot of Republican legislators all fired up saying we need to have a special session because we need to start cracking down on this. But let me remind you that you had a horrific gun control bill, and it actually was the worst gun control bill I'd seen in a long time because it was going to be an assault weapon ban, a magazine ban, and an unconstitutional gun registry, and they did it all in 20 pages, and that just kind of stalled out committee there. And now all of a sudden the Republicans are like, well, maybe we should get a special session. No, you don't need a special session because, you know, careful what you ask for. You just might get it. So, and then for all the people here in Idaho, rub my nose in it. I do get over to Idaho a lot, and I actually will be coming over there. I'm going to be over there in May. I can't remember the exact dates for folks in Idaho, especially in Post Falls. I'm going to be over there doing some work for the Well-Armed Women of America in Eastern Washington on a couple of days. So, which means we'll be doing some time over at North Idaho Arms with BZ and company, and BZ and Ty and all the good folks over there. So, BZ will obviously advertise that. Come on by and say hi. Anyways, for those of you who just jumped in late, this was really predominantly for the hometown crowd tonight, or anyone else who wants to wallow in our misery. House Bill 1163, Washington's permit to purchase, the permission slip you must get before you exercise a constitutional right, has passed out of the Senate now, which means it's now passed out of both chambers. It does need to go back to the House for a quick little reconciliation on an enactment date, but beyond that, it's pretty much ready to go. Yes, I know there is a funding thing in there that could theoretically derail this, but they'll just kick that can down the road. This legislation is not going anywhere. So our permit to purchase is becoming a reality, a sad, and terrible reality. Enactment date now is May 1st of 2027, so long as the House accepts the Senate Ways and Means Committee's amendment. There we go. Got it all out. Okay. All right. Listen. To everyone who tuned in tonight, thank you very much. We're going to try to do some more live stuff. By the way, for those of you who are X users, tomorrow night at 5 o'clock on X, 5 o'clock West Coast time, 8 o'clock out on the other side of the country, we're going to be doing another B2 Summit. That's Bill and Braden Langley from Langley Outdoor Academies. We're going to be over on X. We do about a 90-minute spitball session, talk about a few big issues. And if you guys got some questions for us, we'd love to have you join us, and we can all geek out together. So that's going to be on our channel tomorrow. So that's at Gun Washington. This is live, so I can't put the graphics up. But on X, we are at Gun Washington. Or if you're already following, at Braden LOA, Langley Outdoor Academies. So anyways, join us live on X tomorrow at 5. In the meantime, all of you guys have a great evening. Thanks for your support of Washington Gun Law. Keep fighting, Washington. Keep fighting. And most importantly, y'all stay safe now, okay?